Mecalodon is the brand new launched roller coaster at Walibi Belgium, and it forms the centrepiece of an impressively themed area. This is manufacturer Gerstlauer's latest design for a family coaster, dubbed the Airtime Coaster, and with a name like that, I'm certainly intrigued. Will this new ride make a splash, or will it flounder? Is this new ride a good fit for the park, making it the place to be, or could they have gotten something better instead? I'm Rollercoaster David, and this is my review of Mecalodon. As always, here's a breakdown of the ride layout. After making a gentle right turn out of the station, Mecalodon rolls into the launch section, where it pauses briefly for a short pre-show on screens located above the ride. You're then launched out of the building into a floaty straight airtime hill, before swooping to the left over an S-curved hill. Next is a wave turn that provides some off-axis airtime before you twist to the right and enter a series of fast, low-to-the-ground chicanes over water. Exiting this, you have the second launch over a small hill that leads into a hammerhead turn to the left. You then drop into a series of curved airtime hills, before you turn tightly to the right, levelling off and porpoising over two small bunny hops. A right turn then sends you into the final launch section, again over a small hill, where you climb a large hill to the left, and then double down over a drop, twisting to the left at the bottom before jumping up over another airtime hill. You then twist to the left in a tight turn, shooting over another S-curved airtime hill for the ending sequence of a heavily banked airtime hill and a jump up to the left into the brake run. Now, I don't want to trigger anyone, as I know I've made an enemy of some people with controversial views in the past, and they still harbour a grudge to this day, but I'm not going to be coy, and you're going to get my full, honest opinion of this ride in this deep dive review. Arriving in the park, my first impressions of the new area were pretty positive, with one slight drawback. First thing in the morning, the new coaster was Megalodon, but there were some signs of life within the station, so I reckoned I would be able to ride it later. Fortunately, Mecalodon wasn't the sole reason for my visit to this place, as Walibi Belgium already has a great lineup of coasters, so after a few rides on Conda, I returned to find Mecalodon had opened and experienced my first ride on it. Now I have to say, after one ride, I was hooked, and my first impressions were immensely positive. It's marketed as a family coaster, but there is plenty of fun for adults as well. Partway around my first lap, my prevailing thought was, this reminds me of Juvelen, which is no bad thing. Intamin's family launch coaster is a fantastic ride and highly regarded by enthusiasts, so anything that is compared favourably to it is high praise. The first launch is well executed, and there's a bit of a pre-show countdown where the launch kicks in unexpectedly early. This bait and switch was a great way to start the coaster, but the video sequence is the same every time, so it's unlikely to catch you out more than once. The swooping hills that follow deliver a nice little bit of floater air, and there's a good sensation of speed where the ride stays low to the ground in twists and chicanes. The gently banked S-curves over the water before the second launch are a bit of a highlight, and a great way to interact with the nearby scenery. It also creates the motion of a fish swimming through water, which can't be an accident. The second launch is fun, but isn't the most powerful of boosts. It's over a raised hill though, so you do once again get a little bit of airtime before you're sent into a very floaty hammerhead turn. That again is a bit of a highlight for me. The next section is classic family coaster though, with swooping turns and a big figure of 8, but it's a bit more obvious that you're over water here than on the other sections of the ride. The two mini hills give you some very mild airtime, but they improve the ride's pacing and flow, before the third and final launch. This launch has a similar power to the others, but is maybe slightly more powerful, as it sends you into the highest point of the ride. There's some good airtime here too, in the double down bit particularly, but the most intense part of the ride is probably the section that follows, where there's some fairly strong positive G in the low to the ground turnaround as the train dives under some buildings. I think overall it has a great layout, and the 3 separate launches make for excellent pacing with a separate beginning, middle and end. It's got a good length and ride time, it's got great variety in forces and launches, and nothing on it seems too extreme to scare off less adventurous park guests. The height requirement is only 1 metre or about 48 inches, and I saw quite a few riders that were only just at this height requirement, and they seem to absolutely love the ride. I wouldn't be surprised if Mecalodon helps inspire the next generation of rollercoaster fans. The 3 launches spaced throughout the layout mean you're never really slowing down, and the ride maintains a rapid pace throughout. It may look like the coaster is running out of energy off-ride, but on-ride it never feels like it's treading water, and because the ride stays close to the ground, you're always feeling that speed. This is a really solid family coaster. I'd say it's cracking. When it comes to theming, the whole ride area looks great, and the scale of it is certainly impressive. Walibi Belgium has really pushed the boat out with their detailing of this ride area, and the effort put into the theming is really appreciated. I'm a sucker for that sort of thing. The buildings all look appropriately weathered, yet of course, they're brand new, and there's plenty of nice little touches you'll notice around the ride area, where they've also made some fish puns. The train also looks fantastic as well, and the mechanical shark theme works really well with this sort of ride. The redesign of the area also extends to other nearby rides, and Psyké Underground, their Schwarzkopf shuttle loop coaster, has had a bit of a makeover and has now become Turbine. The redesign works well and adds some cohesion to this new dock area, but the ride is still just as fun as it always was. However, I do kind of miss the catchy Psyké Underground music. Elsewhere in the new themed area, there's a large gift shop and a new restaurant serving poke bowls that looks surprisingly healthy, at least as far as theme park food goes. Also, in a move that will no doubt make the Merlin Parks group envious, they've actually managed to make good use of shipping containers in the theming, and they make perfect sense in this coastal harbour themed zone. Operations were generally very good as well. The ride's got a separate single rider line, which is a bonus, as if there's an empty seat, they can easily fill it. The queue did get quite long, but it kept moving and the wait was never that excessive, plus that single rider line was usually a good option to get to the ride quicker. Megalodon also seems to be pretty reliable as well, as aside from a brief bit of downtime when I first arrived, the ride ran pretty much flawlessly all day from what I can tell. That's particularly impressive when you consider this is a new prototype model from Gerstlauer, and while it does seem to be using technologies that they've already mastered, it's bound to have a lot more new moving parts, and having this coaster operate without downtime is nonetheless impressive. I can think of several coasters that still struggle with reliability, even a couple of years after opening, so the fact that they can keep this ride shipshape and running consistently is a real merit to the park. It's very smooth as well, as the bends in the track seamlessly flow from one to another, and there's no risk of being battered when you ride it. It's simply smooth sailing all the way around. The trains are also well designed and easy to accommodate riders of all sizes. It's easy to get on and easy to get off the ride, and clearly a lot of thought has been put into this new design. One thing I think that's interesting is that Gerstlauer have named this model an Airtime Coaster, which may be a bit of a red herring, as in my mind that doesn't really conjure up a family coaster, and instead gets me thinking of something more impressive like a B&M Hyper. Having said that, this ride does deliver reasonably well on the airtime front, claiming to have 14 separate moments of airtime. Regardless, I think this design is going to make waves throughout the amusement park industry, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see more custom designs surfacing at other parks in the near future. So how does it compare to other coasters targeting a similar demographic? Europe isn't exactly overflowing with impressive family coasters, and there's a lot of old stale designs out there, but Megalodon is a whole new kettle of fish. For me, the most obvious coaster to compare it to is, as I mentioned previously, Juvelen, or perhaps Yukon Quad, the slightly faster mirror image of the original. These coasters have multiple launches and focus on giving a thrilling ride with a variety of forces, but nothing too extreme as to scare off younger riders. It's honestly quite hard to pick between them. It is noteworthy, however, that the height requirement of Intamin's coaster is 20 to 30 centimeters, or nearly a foot higher than Gerstlauer's new design, which means many more younger riders can get to experience it. Similarly, the new family coaster at Walibi Rhône-Alpes, Mahuka, which I was very impressed by, also has the 120 centimeters, about 48-inch height requirement, and the chill side of Yoi is very similar in that respect too. So are there any other modern family coasters that can directly compete with it? Well, for that, you have to look to Vekoma, with their new rides like Big Bear Mountain at Dollywood and Lightning at Furavik, but sadly I'm yet to ride those, so I can't really compare them. I have, however, ridden a lot of Vekoma's other family-targeted coasters, mostly boomerangs which are at Energylandia, and in some ways it does seem like Vekoma are probably the market leader for family coasters now. With the arrival of Mecalodon, however, they now have some very stiff competition. There's also a couple of rides that I have ridden from other manufacturers, such as the Bolton at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, which is a great coaster. The height requirement for it is only very slightly higher than Megalodon, but the intensity is significantly higher, which may lull some riders into a false sense of security, as you can't really see much of the track before you ride it. That's certainly not the problem with Megalodon, as just about every section of track is visible from walkways, and they've even converted the old station from the boat ride into a picnic area that gives fantastic views of Megalodon's middle section. There is of course one other multi-launched family coaster that blows Megalodon out of the water, and that is of course Hagrid's excessively long-named magical creature motorbike adventure, located at Universal Islands of Adventure in Florida. When I suspect though that the budget for that coaster is an order of magnitude greater than Megalodon, it's not really fair to compare it, as picking on it would be like shooting fish in a barrel. If I'm being fair though, I kind of think the overall pacing of Megalodon is a bit better than the Harry Potter ride, though that's not too surprising when Universal's ride has to manage 12 individual trains and their block sections. Finally, in some ways, I find it interesting that Gerstlauer is effectively competing with itself, as in the same park there's another family-friendly ride in the form of Tiki Waka, which shares the same height limit of just 1 meter. This is a Gerstlauer bobsled, which has been a hugely successful model for the company, and to me it feels like a more modern version of the Wild Mouse coasters. I think there's more than enough room for both of these coasters in the park however, as whilst they both lack inversions and have twisting layouts, the launches and different train design, along with the theming, set Megalodon well apart from it, and they end up complementing each other quite nicely. Plus it gives smaller park guests another roller coaster that they can experience. So overall, Megalodon definitely gets my seal of approval. It's officially one of my favourite family coasters. I like the cut of its jib, so find a chum and go ride it, because you're going to have a whale of a time. I'm not going to fish for compliments by asking you to like, comment and subscribe, but those things do help keep the channel afloat, and with so many other YouTube channels covering roller coasters, it's not like this one is a big fish in a small pond. So if everyone watching could show a tidal wave of support, I'd be lying if I said I didn't appreciate it. So if you take the bait and click the like button, subscribe or comment, it'll give me a ray of hope. With that, I guess it's time to wave goodbye. I've been Roller Coaster David. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again in another video very soon.